Well, at that rally in Tulsa, you'll remember the other night, the president said he had asked his people to, quote, slow down testing. Now, White House officials are delivering mixed messages about what the president actually meant, initially saying he was just joking when the president said at the rally that officials should slow down coronavirus testing. His aides claimed he was kidding, but in interviews yesterday, the president declined to say that he was joking.
Saying that he told his people to slow down testing is not true?
It was a comment that he made in jest. It's a comment that he made in passing, specifically with regard to the media coverage and pointing out the fact that the media never acknowledges that we have more cases because when you test more people, you find more cases.
Is it appropriate to joke about coronavirus when 120,000 people have died?
He was not joking about coronavirus. I just said he was joking about the media and their failure to understand the fact that when you test more, you also find more cases.
We do more testing than any country in the world by far, 25 million tests. Other countries do 1 million. Every time you do a test, as you do more tests, it shows more and more cases. So we're so far advanced, both in terms of the quality and the amount. And we're doing all these tests and it shows cases. If other countries aren't doing, or if we did slow it down, we wouldn't show nearly as many cases. You're showing people that are asymptomatic. You're showing people that have very little problem. You're showing young people that don't have a problem. But we're doing so much testing, 25 million tests. Nobody thought that was possible.
But did you ask to slow it down?
If it did slow down, frankly, I think we're way ahead of ourselves, if you want to know the truth. We've done too good a job. Because every time we go up with 25 million tests, you're going to find more people. So then they say, we have more cases in the United States. The reason we have more cases because we do more testing than any other country by far.
At the Tulsa rally, when the media is hitting you on that, where you said, I told my staff, stop the testing. They're saying, was that tongue-in-cheek or?
No, it's semi-tongue-in-cheek. I say it all the time. I know some people thought it was tongue-in-cheek. It's unfair.
But just to clear up, there wasn't a direct order, if you will, to staff to stop the testing.
No, okay. but I think we put ourselves at a disadvantage. I told my people. I said, we've gotten so good at testing. Number one, we have the best tests. Number two, we have the most tests. We test much more than any other nation. Mm-hmm. So you hear about all these cases. So instead of doing 25 million tests, let's say we did 10 million tests, we'd look like we're doing much better because we'd have far fewer cases.
So, Jonathan Lemire, I'll ask you the question that David Brody put to the president yesterday. Is there any evidence, is there any reporting that shows the president of the United States actually did ask public health officials to, quote, slow down testing, as he put it in Tulsa?
It's not clear that he actually gave a direct order to do that, but we know that he has set this tone from the very beginning, that he's been nervous, that he knows that in his estimation that the more tests you get, therefore the more cases you'll find. And of course, let's take a half step back here and go that it was systematic, massive testing failures and shortfalls in the early days of this pandemic that really led to some of the death totals and a number of people that are sick that we've seen, that this was the country itself failed on testing and did not do nearly as well as some of the others. We keep pointing back to South Korea. South Korea and the United States had their first positive case on the same day. South Korea put in place a massive testing program and got the pandemic under control far more quickly than the United States, which still hasn't. We're seeing cases, of course, still rise in huge portions of the country right now. But remember in those early days of the pandemic, when there was that cruise ship that was docked offshore in off of the coast of California, the president wasn't sure he wanted them to come dock. These were sick people, sick Americans, and yet he didn't want them to come dock because once they touched American soil, he therefore feared it would inflate the statistics, and the total number of cases would go up, and it would reflect badly on him. And that's where we are seeing right now, is that he's far more concerned about the messaging, about the appearances, his critics say, of the coronavirus and the failures of testing, that he's turning a blind eye to the actual problems that so much of this country is still having. We're seeing spikes, real surges in places like Arizona, but not just Arizona, Texas, Florida, California, others as well. And as much as the White House is trying to push that message of reopening, the country's going back to normal, you need to adapt to this, it is still, for a lot of people in a lot of places, a real crisis in their lives.
So let me take it a step further. I mean, what you have here on the two major components of helping this country through the pandemic, since we don't have a vaccine, since we started late, since the president ignored this from day one, saying it would fade away, it's just a few people coming from China, it would magically go away, since he didn't actually respond to this pandemic and take it seriously, compared to Joe Biden, who was writing in USA Today in January that this was coming. It was going to be epic. It was going to be bad, and we needed to prepare. Since this president didn't respond to this pandemic, and that is clearly logged in the history books for all Americans to see and hear and read for years to come, now you have a president who is actively working against the health of the American people in his words and in his actions. He won't wear a mask. He makes fun of people who wear masks. He makes sure his staff makes fun of people who wear masks. Masks can keep this virus from spreading. The president won't wear one and makes fun of people who wear them and actually sets an example that you actually should not wear a mask when it's the one thing that could actually keep this from spreading, because we are so unprepared for this. Same with testing. He keeps saying, oh, if we test more, we'll have more cases. Yes, idiot. We want to know where the virus is and where it isn't so we can protect people. Had we had testing in place, maybe at this point we'd be at mass testing. Maybe there'd be testing before people go into concerts and rallies so that we could make sure that these arenas and these public venues are safe, so that we could make sure this economy could reopen. So again and again and again, the president works against himself and the health of the American people and continues to botch this. That's what we're seeing happening. This is not me, having a slant on it. This is the reality. Look at the science, talk to your doctor. Talk to scientists you trust and tell me that what I've said isn't exactly the case in terms of the example that he is setting as a leader to try and keep this country safe. And I'll say it applies to the example that he is setting around the world. Other countries are doing better on this. And there's a reason, because they're leading on this. Other countries are stepping up now and embarrassing us on this. We're number one in areas where we don't want to be with this virus. You know where else other countries are leading? On racial unrest. They are holding protests around the world about what happened here in America. And this president, once again, holds a blind eye to it all and makes it worse. At this point, we're looking for more from our leader, and it's not even about his campaign. It's about keeping the American people safe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.